Welcome everybody to my basic tutorial on moving 2D objects. I went through multiple tutorials on moving multiple game objects at the same time. I did find a few that were helpful. However, I took a little bit different approach as this game required to be a little bit different. And a lot of them were more on 3D or moving one object. The obstacle we're going to have is we have a two-player game, so they're both going to be having touch input on a mobile device. As you can see, I've imported two game objects. You can import anything you'd like as these, and if you're not sure how to import assets, I will have that in an earlier video. This video will also go in line with a series on game development from the beginning all the way to producing the application. Alright, so in this specific tutorial, I've already added my two game objects. You don't need to worry about the ball or control. And so we have player one, which is a green paddle on the left side. Do make sure that your position is set correctly, or take note of this. I highly recommend that you look at your camera view to see what the player is going to see when they look at the actual game when you're running it, so that you can make sure that your game objects are on the screen. So I have my player one at -6.5, and the Y and Z are both 0. So on player 2, obviously it's going to be +6.5, and again 0 and 0 for the Y and Z axis. Since this is a 2D game, we're not going to be working with the Z axis at all. Alright, so now what we're going to need to do is we are going to need to add our rigid bodies, because we will be needing that later on. So you can just do that by adding component physics 2D and go to rigid body. Alright, so once you have those on both your player objects, what we're going to go ahead and do now is we're going to make two C# scripts. Let's just go ahead and name it ply 1, and we'll make the next ply 2. Now, this script is pretty simple, and so we're actually going to be utilizing a very similar script for both of these. So let's just go ahead and open up player 1. And while that is opening, just make sure, again, okay, so our player 1 is going to be at -6.5 on its x-axis. On this game, we're really just wanting the player to be able to move on the y-axis. And so, one thing to do is, to start out, let's just go ahead and delete the start function, because we do not need that in our script for this example. Alright, so what we're going to need to do first is we're going to need to do a for each loop. Because there's going to be multiple people touching at one time, so we need to make sure that we go through each of our touch events. So for each touch, and we'll just name that instance touch, in input dot touches. All right, and so what we're going to do for this is we're going to work with a vector 2, and so let's just go ahead and set that up. We'll call it vector 2 pose, and we're going to get camera dot main dot screen to world point, and the reason we have to do this is because the position of our game object is different than the position of the camera, and so we're just changing that over so we can tell it to move our game object properly. So now we have a position, and so now we need to check to see if it's in the left region or the right region, so that we can say, okay, well, this player now needs to move based on this touch. So we're going to do if statement. We're going to do position.x, and so this is our player 1. So we want to do less than 3, because I don't want the players to be able to touch in the middle. They are restrained to their either the left side or the right side, but it gives them a little wiggle room as well. I believe that is -3. And so now what we need to do is we need to set, because I don't want the player to be able to move on the x-axis, so we're going to keep it at the -6.5. All right, and then the next thing we need to do is just move the object. And it's as simple as that. All right, so we're just saying, hey, if you get a touch event in the left region of the screen, we want to move the y-axis of this object. All right, and so let's go ahead and save that. And if you're still in the editor, what you can do at this point is you can actually just copy this whole update, because we're pretty much going to use the same one and just change some basic numbers here. So we want it to be greater than 3, +3, because we want it to be on the right side of the region, and then we want to keep our x position of player 2 at 6.5. And so it's as simple as that. We also have 2 updates here. Sorry about that. Well, that would have caused a mess. All right. So at this point, we have both of our scripts saved and set. So now we can go ahead and close our editor. I always like to just click on the scripts within Unity just to make sure everything transferred over properly. So it looks like we're good to go there. So now all we need to do is attach the scripts to our characters. Okay, so let's go ahead and click on player 2. And then just go to add component, and then just go ahead and click on your player 2 script. And then we're going to do the same for our player 1. All right, now we can go ahead and save that. And let's go ahead and run it. Now, since I have mine set up for a mobile platform and I'm using a mobile device, it will be receiving my touch inputs. So let's just check and make sure that's working properly. Also, if you're not sure how to set your environment up to work with an Android device, I have made a video on that, and so you can check that out as well. All right. And it looks like we're receiving both inputs from both player 1 and player 2 properly. We can do it at the same time. And as you can see, I can't click in the middle and control them. I have to click on the respective sides. And so it looks like our touch input is working perfectly for these characters. And so that concludes this brief tutorial. I'd like to thank you for watching this and hope that you'll continue on the next tutorials, which goes through the whole process of creating, creating, and then actually deploying an Android game to the Google Play Store. So look forward to seeing you guys. Have a wonderful day.